Hello and welcome. This is Frank Donaldson, and I'd like to welcome you to the first University of Dayton ISPD online class on understanding Catholic school advancement and development, 25 lessons learned. We're excited to be able to offer this to you. We want to thank all of you for continuing to take a look at how you can professionally grow, and we hope that these 10 classes will provide some wonderful information, and we look forward to providing many resources as we move through these next 5 months. As we always do, let us go ahead and begin with opening prayer, and let us remember we're in the holy presence of God. Lord, many have been called for this work of development, and few are chosen. We realize that this important ministry of Catholic school development can be both fulfilling and challenging. Please help us to learn that Catholic school development is not fundraising, but rather a way to involve and invite people in our Catholic schools. Our goal is to build a sense of spiritual bonding, of community, of friendship and commitment. One of those results could be financial support. Please let me learn that Catholic school development is not a win-lose situation, that it really is a process of bringing Christ to people and people to Christ. Please help me learn that extending myself to others and inviting them to participate is not a weakness, but a strength. And please let these efforts of ours be successful by blessing us and giving us the courage to tell our story of need and our story of success, with boldness, with conviction, with commitment, and with love. Amen. Once again, welcome. We are excited that we have so many people that are taking this course. And as we always like to mention, if you have purchased a copy of the book, 25 Lessons Learned from NCEA, you'll note that the book is dedicated to the memory of a very close friend of mine, Michael Gilliatt. Michael was a true Catholic school visionary leader. His last ministry was as president of De La Salle High School here in New Orleans. Michael and I started this company years ago together, 27 years, and I've had the wonderful opportunity of working with him for many, many years and sharing the same philosophy. And there's even the lesson on leadership that comes from his doctoral dissertation. So I do want to share that with you. We are, as I said, excited that we have over 82 dioceses represented as students in this classroom, and we have a lot to cover. We have a lot to share with you. If you have purchased the book, I think it'll make it much easier. If you have not purchased the book, that's okay, but I think it would be advantageous. The book can be ordered from NCEA, and as I have told several people already, the proceeds from the sale of the book, 100% goes to NCEA. And so therefore, when you purchase the book, you are supporting the National Catholic Educational Association. The book is divided, as you probably have seen and will see as we move through the classes, into a introductory section, which we'll cover today. And then it's divided into what I call 8 lessons that deal with the philosophy and fundamentals of Catholic school development. And then there is section C, which deals with lessons 9 through 25, which are actual processes and structures that are in place to advance Catholic schools. And then finally, in the last class, class number 10, we'll have some parting thoughts as we move things forward. As we take a look at this, I like to share just a little bit of where this is coming from. My background in Catholic schools is a former Catholic school teacher and administrator and development director, and I was in those positions for some 20 to 21 years. I graduated from a Catholic high school here in New Orleans, De La Salle High School, and all of my children have graduated from Catholic schools, and we are also very involved in our own parish in Slidell, Louisiana. It's important that I mention that because I think we look at it from the standpoint of working with Catholic institutions through the years. I've had the wonderful opportunity of being in many, many dioceses throughout the country. I kind of tongue-in-cheek always say that the past 27 years have been really almost a blur, with over 2 million travel miles with Southwest and Delta as we've crisscrossed the country working with Catholic schools and parishes and dioceses. The lessons that we've learned, I wish I would have known when I began the journey back in the 1980s when I first got involved. And so therefore the 25 lessons are our lessons. These are lessons that we have shared across the country. These are lessons that we have presented at NCEA, at NCDC, and next month at the International Stewardship Conference in Atlanta. And as we take a look at these lessons, once again, I don't really feel that is anything more than just to say that these lessons are things that we have learned. Uh, we know in looking at the roster of the many students that are taking this class that we have people that are just starting. We have people that have been at this for a year or two, and we have seasoned veterans who, once again, I always applaud because I really think that you're taking a class like this is really a tribute to you in the sense that you share a same philosophy as we do. And that is, we certainly can pick up valuable nuggets of wisdom as we move through classes, regardless of how much we have gotten involved. You know, when I started at Mercy Academy in New Orleans back in the mid 80s, the word development was a word that was thrown around just like the word stewardship. It always meant fundraising. I, without knowing anything about it, always thought the same thing. But as I got involved, I began to realize that there were a lot of reasons back in the 80s and even the 70s that quote unquote development offices were opened. Catholic schools back when I went to De La Salle, the classrooms were filled. There was no technology. There was very little salaries to pay because it was primarily the Christian brothers, all the religious who were there. And I actually, when I graduated from college, I went back my first year out of college and taught at De La Salle in 1967, 68. And so I was one of 3 lay teachers at that time. And because of that, the overhead was not what it is now. And as we all know, as we take a look what has taken place just in the last 40 years, we have seen that with the less religious that are in our Catholic schools, the lay teachers that we need to attract in terms of quality lay teachers and staff, when we take a look at the technology advances we need to have, when we take a look at the shifting demographics, when we take a look at so many things that have impacted, you know, our Catholic schools in terms of enrollment, in terms of revenue, we knew back then that development was going to be key. Unfortunately, I find that as I've been involved in this, almost the entire emphasis was, and in some cases still is, placed on the idea that development is all about raising money. And so I once again like to share that in that beginning year, I felt the same way. But as I began to work in development at Mercy Academy, I came to quickly realize that was not the answer. I could certainly invite somebody to give a financial gift, and they would give that financial gift, but then usually the next year when they saw me coming, they were ducking for cover. And so as we looked at it, we began to realize that development was a lot more. And so as you look at the cover of the book in the bottom right-hand corner of this slide, you'll see something we're going to talk about in just a minute. We call it the pebble in the pond theory. The fact that as we drop a pebble in a pond, the first ripple are usually those people that we always go to all the time. And we've got to move beyond that. And so as we take a look at these classes, we'd like to share experiences with you. There'll be some experiences that will actually amuse you. There'll be some experiences that will startle you, and there'll be some experiences that will probably be just like yours. And so the purpose of the class as we move on through is to share this 25 plus year history. I always like to pay tribute to the early pioneers. When I first got involved, as I talk about in the book, I was coming off of really a career that dealt with Catholic school teaching English and journalism and theater arts. But the principal where I was sent me to a workshop down in Orlando, Florida. And it was a workshop, a 5-day workshop that was put on by Catholic School Management. And Richard Burke was the person that was there. Richard, along with Sister Mary Burke, along with Sister Kathleen Collins, along with Father John Flynn, these were the early pioneers. These were the people, along with 1 or 2 consulting firms in the early days, Gonza, Gerber, Tinker, Stir. These were the early pioneers in Catholic schools, because basically what took place, as I'm sure many of you know, we got this whole idea of development and advancement and the value of marketing. It came down into the religious community and private-owned Catholic high schools. Then it moved on into the Catholic diocesan high schools. Then it moved into the Catholic elementary schools. Then it moved into the parishes. And so as we look at the early pioneers back in the 80s, I always refer to, and we'll look at in a minute, Father John Flynn's chart that he talks about the difference between development versus fundraising. You'll notice I have the word development on the screen, and it may throw you a little bit because in many circles, more so today than 10 years ago, the word today is advancement. And so when I talk about the word development, I'm synonymously also talking about advancement. And there's a reason for that. When we look at these two words, development and advancement, what we're talking about is how do we, and in this case, we have pastors, presidents, principals, board members, development directors, superintendents, all kinds of folks taking this class. When we look at this word development, we're talking about how do we as Catholic school leaders develop and advance our Catholic schools? How do we do that? And so we feel there's a really big difference between these two words, and we'd like to share that with you as we move along. Our definition of development, and as always has been, is that development/advancement really is all about engaging people, the meaningful involvement of people in your mission and vision for the future. And so with that, as we take a look at the evolving face and names of development to advancement, of student recruitment to enrollment management, we begin to realize that there needs to be called to everyone's attention the difference between the two. And so therefore, in terms of that, let's look at it just right quickly. When we talk about fundraising events, many Catholic schools begin their development efforts so somebody can run the golf tournament, somebody can run the fair, somebody can run the festival, somebody can run events. In many cases back in the 80s and 90s, this is why development started. And so let's look at that. In terms of the basic approach and concept with this, these are the kinds of things we hear and see, is that many times it's a panic reaction to negative deficits. Although on the development, true Catholic development/advancement side of the equation, that approach is strong commitment, an inviting and engaging culture, good business management, good strategic planning, good PR, good communications, and people are invited to consider their gifts. By the word gifts now, I don't necessarily just mean their financial giving. I also mean gifts that deal with prayer, gifts that deal with service. And so as we talk about these gifts, important to note that we're not just talking about the fundraising in terms of the revenue part of it. Really, with fundraising, there are a lot of programs and projects, and you probably recognize a lot of these, all the way from the auctions to the bingos to the car washes to the bike-a-thons, wash-a-thons, walk-a-thons, and yet in development, it's a little bit more in regards to philanthropic giving, where we are taking a look at inviting people to give their gifts because they believe in a vision, they believe in a mission, they believe in the direction the school is going. And so annual funds or annual appeals, whatever you want to call them, capital campaigns and strategic plans and a stewardship approach where there's constituent input and team building. All of these are the processes, the projects, the programs that we see in development. As we look at this further, what are the results? Those Catholic schools that have counted, and I've encountered a lot of these, and I always say unfortunately, who concentrate just on maybe a direct mail annual fund where they send out a letter and a little brochure and a pledge card and a return envelope, and they run the bingo and the golf tournament and the bike-a-thon and the walk-a-thon and the candy sale and the Christmas card sale and the Christmas tree sale and the bunny rabbit sale. The results usually are this. That bottom line says it all. Please help us because we need your assistance because we're poor. And whereas that may get $5, $10, $15, $25, $50, you're not going to get people investing. And so therefore, as we look at the development side of the equation, we realize that a lot of difference. Because development works from a projected plan, works from something that's exciting. In between class one and class two, within the next several days, I'm going to be sending you a lot of, not a lot, but some supplementary material. One of those is going to be a sample of a strategic plan for development and stewardship from a school and a parish that we recently worked with. And you'll see it leads with the mission, it leads with the theme. And on the cover of the brochure, the theme of that plan is, gather as one, go forth as many. And their mission statement leads it off. There's a vision that's in there. There's a plan that's in there. And so as we take a look at development, this is what it is. It's very transparent. Once again, how do we develop? How do we advance our Catholic schools? How do we do that? How do we make that happen? And so as you come on into class number one, you may be saying, what's in it for me? What am I going to get out of this? What exactly? Well, if nothing else, you're going to get 10 PowerPoints. And these PowerPoints that will be sent to you in the next, for class one in the next few days, you'll get all 10. I think these PowerPoints you can use. You can use to teach. Many people say, Frank, what is your biggest challenge in the work that you guys do? And is it like we work with schools and parishes and dioceses and do all kinds of things. And I say, the biggest challenge that we have, really, the biggest challenge that we have is having people understand what this stuff is all about. Having people understand what development really means, what advancement really means. Because I've always said the greatest challenge we face is not necessarily raising money. It's not putting more students in the classroom. I know that sounds strange to some, but the greatest challenge we believe we face in Catholic schools is the ability for you and I to open up roadways and avenues and vehicles for people to become engaged into the life of our school, where they feel like they belong. Belonging leads to believing. And when people feel like they belong, they really become excited. And because of that, we want to make sure we have the right focus. We want to make sure that the mistakes we've made and we've done over the last 25 plus years, we'd like to make sure we point out to you where processes have gone wrong. We'd like to share with you lessons that we've learned that are valuable, that are really key, that are really important. And we always say with development, although you're driven by a lot of deadlines, make sure you're following the compass and not just the clock. Because if you follow the compass, then you realize that you really are about helping build God's kingdom. That's the compass. Our mission statement of our company, and is so in sync with the University of Dayton, is bringing people, process, and ministry together to help build the kingdom of God. And that's what you're doing. You're helping develop, you're helping advance. And as long as that compass is pointed in the right direction, then you're going to find that the culture that you create is going to be exciting. We also believe there's some core values. And with that, we feel that with this class, we're going to be driven by 7 of them. And so I think you'll see these come out, that the commitment to our Catholic faith, the commitment to the advancement of Catholic schools, parishes, and dioceses, the commitment to integrity, the commitment to make sure we customize the teaching and the coaching, to make sure that we work with you to have you understand not only the fact you must build teams, but how to build those teams, making sure we work with you in terms of how do you foster a belonging and affirming culture. Many people say, well, gosh, our alums, we'd love to have them involved, but we only have a handful involved. We only have 2%, 3%, 4%, 5%. And we say, well, there's some processes that you can make that happen. There's some things that you can do that can make a huge difference. But once again, you've got to get your infrastructure in place, and you've got to make sure you establish a culture that will let that and make that happen. So therefore, we are all about meaningfully engaging people. And so with that, let's make sure we understand by development, we do not mean fundraising. By advancement, we do not mean running just the annual appeal. We mean by fundraising events, buying and selling. That's what we mean. We're talking about fundraising dollars, the golf tournament, the auction, the candy sale, the Christmas tree sale, the spring mulch sale. Those are fundraising events. And those fundraising events are a buy and a sell way of thinking. You're going to sell me a Christmas tree and I'm going to buy it because I need a Christmas tree. You're going to sell me 15 bags of mulch for my spring garden because I need it and I'm going to buy that from you. I'm not buying that Christmas tree and those bags of mulch primarily because I believe in your mission, vision, and core values. I'm buying that because I need a Christmas tree. But yet, development advancement dollars, we're talking about something different here. We're talking about you're inviting me to help develop and advance your institution. You're inviting me to get involved in a meaningful way so I can make that happen. You're inviting me to invest. And that becomes the key. So therefore, we've got to make sure we're ready for that. And it's not just 1, 2, or 3 people who are ready for that. We've got to make sure all of our messengers are on the same page. And so with that in mind, we realize, terminology has changed from student recruitment to enrollment management. And so with that, let's start with lesson 1. And with lesson 1, as we take a look at it, it becomes important that we realize that the key to lesson 1 is promoting the involvement of people as the common denominator. And we already alluded to this, but that becomes really important that we look at it in terms of being able to realize that we're talking about people engagement. People engagement. Okay? So with the people engagement piece, let's look at it. When we talk about development, as we said, it's the meaningful involvement of people in your mission and vision for the future. We have what we call the 7I approach. And with the 7I approach, here's what we mean. If we define development and advancement as being able to develop and advance, okay, then we maintain that the first I is for us as Catholic leaders to always be identifying. Always be identifying. Always be identifying, every day, every hour, every day of the year. Identifying those people who can make a difference. Identifying those people that we can that we can get involved in what we're doing. Identifying whether it's new parents, whether it's parents that have been with you for a while, whether it's grandparents, whether it is godparents, whether it is the business community, whether it is alumni, whether as we take a look at this, constantly identifying. And that's something that we all have the opportunity to do because we always, if we have a culture that seeks to invite, involve, and engage, we're always identifying. We're always informing. Back when I started in this, the tools in the toolbox were pretty slim. Right now, with the communication tools we have with social media and with websites and with emails and with texting, along with the traditional ways, we've got wonderful ways of being able to inform. So we've got to inform people. This is a key piece. The third I is the one I think we miss the most, and that is the personal invitation. We invite people to do things, but we don't do it personally. If you're interested in this, then sign up for that. Instead of. Let me give you an example. Working with one school, and one of the things they're doing is they're hosting some parent coffee meetings by class, and inviting the parents to come in the morning, have a cup of coffee, spend 30 minutes with the principal and the advancement director and the assistant principal and a couple of teachers and a couple of students. And so they sent out a nice little invitation. And they said to the 8th grade parents, would like for you to come in from such and such and such and such time in the morning. If you drop your kid off, you can come. And please RSVP. Well, there was an RSVP. And of the 90 parents that could have come in, they had responses from 10 of them. Well, then they decided, wait a minute, we need to call these people. So they formed a little parent outreach group ad hoc, and they called everybody. And the RSVPs of 8 or 10 turned into over 60 people attending the coffee, the personal invitation, becomes so important. That third I, and that's the one we miss the most, the personal invitation. Because once people are personally invited, they become involved. Once they're involved, they once again can realize they can help you implement. They can help you implement. Last night, I was working with the Catholic secondary school, and we are coming out of a strategic planning effort. We've divided into 4 implementation teams. We had people there signing up for those teams to help implement and moving that forward. They will help you do that. And the 6th I is invest. I know you may think, gosh, there's where the money is. Well, it could be. But also when we're talking about investment, we're talking about a level of consciousness where people invest in terms of, I want to help you move your school forward. I'm vested. I am vested. My gifts I will give to you. My gifts of prayer, my gifts of service, my gifts of finance, my gifts of connections, my gifts of resources that I have, I will share with you because I believe in your mission. I believe in your vision. And then lastly, it is probably the reason that many of you are taking the class, and that is, how can we constantly improve? How can we make that happen? How can we make sure that the continuous improvement cycle always is taking place? Okay, so the 7I approach, if you look at that big circle on your screen right now, one of the things I invite you to do is imagine that was spinning round and round, and let's say inside of that circle were these 7 smaller circles, and they were spinning round and round. And the synergy that's created becomes contagious. And if we go back to what we said, that development is the meaningful involvement of people in your mission and vision. If we go back to the greatest challenge we face, and that is to open up the roadways, avenues, and vehicles to invite and involve and engage people, then this 7 I's is development in action. It's exciting, it's proactive, and it makes things happen. So as we look at all of this, we realize that it is a dynamic process when built correctly. And that's what we're doing right now, is building this infrastructure and this philosophy and this culture, and realize that pebble in the pond theory I talked about earlier that you see on the screen now, that first ripple of those people that many Catholic schools that I've gone into and seen, those are Catholic schools. We use the same people over and over. You know, same 25 or 30 people. Let's get married. She's been doing it for 10 years. She's great. She's not going to tell me no. But the key to Catholic school development, developing our school, advancing our schools, is the second ripple and the third ripple of hundreds of more people who would love to get involved, but they don't get involved because of one basic reason, and that is we don't invite them. We don't personally invite them. We don't engage them. And so if you build up your efforts, then I think it's very, very important that you build them around that personal invitation. And that's why we have that as the cover of the book. As we look at lesson 2, we alluded to this earlier. This is something that you know, some people look at and say, oh yeah, we got our mission. I know what it is. Oh, it's up on the wall. Well, we're going to dig down deep on this one. We really are talking about the leaders of your Catholic school being able to clearly articulate verbally and in the written word your Catholic school's mission and vision. Who are you and where are you going? And what do you value? That becomes important. That is not just a page in the back to school meeting with teachers that you point to for 15 minutes. This is a piece that becomes so important. And so let's look at it. Henry Nouwen, in a book called The Spirituality of Fundraising, and he uses the word fundraising very loosely here because he really is talking about development and advancement. He says this. He says, development is not a response to a crisis. It is first and foremost a form of ministry. It's a way of announcing a vision and inviting other people into a mission. It's quoting, without vision we perish, without mission we lose our way. The ability to articulate, where are you going? What is your school going to be like in the next 5 or 10 years? Vision does give us the courage to speak when we might want to remain silent. And so as we look at this, it becomes important to ponder some questions. Is your mission clear and compelling? Do you have a clear vision that you can speak about, write about? Are they Do they create a compelling case of why people would want to share their resources, whatever those resources may be? Time, prayer, finances, connections? Are all of your messengers, your administration, your faculty, your staff, your support, your leadership, are they able to share the same message? Do they understand what it is and where you're going? So as you look at this, you may want to say, can my mission vision statement complete the following statements? We are the people who, we provide what, we want to be seen as. Maybe with your leadership team or your board, have them complete these sentences. And then take a look at what words and phrases they come up with and see if you see those words and phrases in your present mission and vision statement. Because as we look at it, here's some sample mission statements. I'm not saying these are perfect. I'm just saying here's some others. And then after I read some of them to you, I'm going to kind of give you a rhetorical question. Sample one, we're a Christ-centered educational community that is committed to the fullness of the gospel message. We strive to develop each child's spiritual, academic, social, and physical potential. Two, rooted in our Catholic faith, the name of the school. We foster spiritual development, academic excellence, responsibility to self, and service to others. We provide a college preparatory education for the formation of mind, body, and spirit of each student in accordance with the teachings of the Catholic Church. And here's one where I give you the name of the school because I think it's one of the best ones I've ever been involved with. Archbishop Muller High School. Catholic, period. Marianist, period. Forming our students into remarkable young men. I love it. I'm not asking you to agree because I've always maintained when you put more than two people in a room with a mission and a vision statement, you're always going to have disagreements. I'm just simply saying from where I stand, I can take this mission in sample 4 into a strategic planning session. I can take this mission into a meeting with a prospective donor. I can take this mission and vision statement into a cup of coffee in trying to get somebody enlisted and engaged to be part of my strategic planning effort. And I can once again share this mission, and I can definitely articulate this mission because it's short, it's to the point, and it makes sense. Forming our students into remarkable young men. So therefore, when we make a decision on the board level, when we make a decision on the administrative level, when we make a decision as a faculty and staff, when we take a look at what we're going to do, are we forming our students into remarkable young men by doing this? I know because I've sat in and helped the school with their strategic thinking. And in terms of that, once again, I was sitting in one meeting where one idea came up and boom, the hand went up from the theology teacher who was part of it and said, I don't really think that's forming our students into remarkable young men. It drives everything. That's why it's so important. As a former Catholic school English teacher, the mission and vision, that's your topic sentence to the paragraph, your thesis statement to the essay. And so, sample vision, to form students of strong character and deep faith who complete college, serve others, and participate actively in the life of the church. That's pretty interesting. So when I go back to this slide here, I always ask this question. How many of these mission vision statements that you see in these samples here and the other one over here, how many of these can I just change the name of the Catholic school and say, hey, that's theirs too? See, because mission and vision has to be unique, has to be something that is you, that is unique, that is distinguishable, that makes you you. And so as we look at that, I think it's important as we drive this forward, a couple of thoughts about mission and vision. W. Edwards Deming, the father of total quality management, he once said that mission is about constancy of purpose. Why and how we do what we do. This is the core. It should drive all decision making. The constant purpose why we do what we do. Very, very important. And about vision, I've always said this, that when someone says, this is our vision statement, I've said this sentence, kind of a quote from me, is that, okay, given that I agree with you on your mission, what would you like me to be able to see? If I came back here to your school in 2 years or 5 years, what would you want me to see? And that's the vision. That's the vision. What do you want me to see? What do you want to be involved in? What are you excited about? What are you pumped up about? What do you get up in the morning wanting to go talk about? Or do you just and I'm not saying this in any demeaning way. I'm just trying to rattle here some ways of thinking that for 27 plus years I've seen, and if I can do anything to change them, I can. I'm going to try and do it. Or do we have our Catholic leaders just going to the schools and staying in their schools? This is a people business. We're living in an age today, unlike back when I started 27 years ago in development, and back when I started in 67, 68 as a Catholic school teacher. This is a different culture and a different environment, and we've got to shake off the reactive way of thinking and move to proactive thinking. We've got to take our mission and our vision, make sure it's compelling, make sure it's exciting, and bring it out and share it with people. One-on-one, small groups. There's so many ways to do it that we're going to talk about in this class. But once again, we got to shift that culture to make it happen. And so as we look at coming from NCEA and those national standards and benchmarks, notice how just very, from an educational standpoint, mission must include commitment to Catholic identity. Mission is the foundation. Mission needs to be reviewed every 2 years. Mission needs to be visible. And all constituents must know and understand that mission and that vision. So as we look at that, that becomes that key piece. Lesson 1 talks about people engagement. Lesson 2 talks about mission and vision. Now let's go to lesson 3, the last lesson we're going to cover in this class. And it's all about leadership. Once again, right now we're establishing the framework. We're doing some building blocks here to make sure that you get your structure and organization in shape. And if you have it already in place, maybe with this class you can tweak it a little bit. But we're talking with leadership about leadership and attitude. Many times people would say to me, Frank, what's the difference between a great Catholic school and one that's okay, or it's good, or it's very good? I always say it's leadership and attitude. Those two words. And so as we look at this example of leadership and attitude, is your leadership boss management? Is it a laissez-faire management? Or is it team management? Realizing the buck does stop somewhere. We get that. We understand that. We understand that. I fully understand that. Okay? Someone is ultimately responsible. But that someone that's ultimately responsible, if she or he is building teams, those decisions become much easier to deal with. We feel that there are 5 principles that we see in Catholic school leadership in our years. Good, really outstanding Catholic school leaders build relationships. Eyeball to eyeball. They create a culture of belonging. They can clearly articulate a vision like we talked about in lesson 2. And that vision's been created through meaningful involvement of people. They believe in team. Together, everyone achieves more. They actively cultivate a collaborative culture, one that seeks input and respects the opinions of others, even though what those others may say you may be in disagreement with. One that builds trust and confidence. Recently, I had a pastor up in the Midwest say, listen, I really am nervous, but I want to do it about doing this survey, online and in pew. And then we're going to do some more input sessions. We're going to invite people to come in and tell us what's working well and what things we can improve. I'm a little nervous about all that. And so as I told him, I said, Father, I fully understand that, but look at it from another view. Granted, you're taking a risk. Granted, you're going to take some pot shots. Granted, once again, people are going to offer suggestions. But once again, you're showing strength. You're not only showing strength, but you're saying to people, I value what you have to say. Though I may not agree with it, I want to listen to it. As Father Jim Manning, a good pastor friend of mine up at St. Mary's, the Assumption Parish in Franklin, Ohio, says, you got to know what Bubba in the pew is thinking. And so it becomes important. But good Catholic school leaders are accessible and interesting. They're innovative, not willing to settle for status quo, and they make sure that they find that wow in their Catholic school. What is your wow? Because that wow usually is tied right back to vision. So as we look at this, I'd like to share Michael's parts of his dissertation. He was an English teacher, like I was. You probably tell from the title of his dissertation where he comes from that he was a Robert Frost fan, like I am. The One Less Traveled By, a New Model of Leadership. And that was the title of his dissertation. And he and I met back in the late 1980s. He had been a principal. He was been a development director, English teacher, assistant principal, and he ended his career as president of a high school. What we resonated about and talked for so many hours about was our genuine belief that development and advancement really was about people, and that you have to have a passion and a desire to think beyond the norm. Um, the workbook that goes along with this textbook that you see in the right hand corner, I just got finished. NCA had edited it for me and sent it to me a couple of weeks ago, and I just got finished this past Saturday sending back the edits and making all those corrections. And so that workbook should be available here probably in September or October. I'm going to be sending you excerpts of that workbook for your homework assignments, because the workbook is a workbook to go with each lesson of the book. But the reason why I mention it now is because in the introduction of that workbook, I talk about that word passion, and the fact that it is so important that we as Catholic school leaders have a passion. We have a fire in the belly. We make sure that, we've got to be proactive. We've got to move. We've got to move, as Father James Mallon says in his wonderful book, From Maintenance to Mission, Divine Renovation. How do we move from just maintaining our Catholic school to making sure that we up the ante and we're involved in mission and vision? How do we move from maintenance to mission? Because when you're in maintenance mode, okay, that's fine. We're doing it. We got it in neutral. It's not going backwards. It's not going forwards. So, as Michael and I talked about so many times, the ability to bring passion to the table. After Hurricane Katrina in 2005, he moved away from Louisiana, moved to North Carolina, and then he and I stayed in touch. And then he came back and became president of De La Salle High School. He really believed in those principles of leadership, and in 2.5 years, he transformed a school that was losing enrollment to where it gained enrollment by 25 or 30%. And he built teams. He developed and created 5 classrooms of the future. It was amazing what he did just in 2.5 short years. And when he found out in November that he had cancer, and a very quick developing one, he and I spent a fair amount of time together in his last months. And he helped proof the book. He helped look it over, shared ideas, and I can never thank him enough for the conversations that we had, because he had done it. And he passed away on April 12th of 2015. Just a tremendous Catholic school leader. He talked about his 10 building blocks, and he framed them around 4 domains in terms of leadership. Now, when I say leadership, I'm not necessarily talking about the pastor, just the pastor, just the president, just the principal. I'm also talking about all of us who are in positions of leadership, whether we are development directors, whether we are board members, whether we are faculty and staff members, whether we are parent volunteers. We are the leaders of Catholic schools. And so because of that, he talks about these 4 domains, the 4 domains: personal domain, organizational, communal, and global. Visually in his dissertation, he has a visual, which is a little bit difficult to see, but I did the best I could to duplicate it. But basically, he talks about these 10 building blocks, with the personal ones going across, organizational, communal, and global. And just kind of very quickly, as we look at this, let's start with personal. What does he mean by personal leadership? Well, his thought was that in terms of purpose, the leader has clear direction. They seek information and wisdom and don't think they know it all. They have a courage to persevere and move on through that cold north wind that we all face. And above all, they affirm people. They appreciate people. Never forget, about 15 years ago, we were doing some planning with 3 Catholic high schools. One was in Florida, one was in Ohio, and one was in Alabama. And I asked them the same question. As you take a look, and I asked the faculty and staff this, I said, as you take a look at what you would like to work on in terms of continuous improvement, what is the one area that you think your school should do? Now, neither one of those high schools knew each other. Neither one knew each other. Interestingly, the last word on this slide is what they all three said: affirmation. We as a faculty staff do not feel there is enough affirmation. We as administration do not feel there's enough affirmation. So, very important in the personal domain to make sure we build our leadership style around that affirmation. In the organizational domain was that there is a sense that the potential future state of your Catholic school is compelling as a vision, and it's shared. It is creative in terms of adaptation, and it's built around meaningful relationships. As you see these things that Michael wrote, and you can tell, that this has had such an impact on the way we both worked through the years, he was able to put it into this type of organizational model, which is just unbelievable. And then in the communal domain, in terms of in the community, is your Catholic school making a positive difference within and beyond itself? And is that Catholic school, is it really in service? Is it operating in service rather than control of those around us? Lastly was the one that always fascinated me, and it took him about 8 or 10 months to settle on this word. In the global domain, beyond your community, the word that he thought every leader needed to look for in terms of the rightful outcome was justness, not justice, justness. That authentic leaders are not motivated by compliance, but by commitment. And there's a strong sense of purpose and calling that serves a mission that they care about. And this goes so far beyond local. It goes beyond that. Just a tremendous dissertation, which if you choose, this could be one of your homework assignments for lesson 3. And I'll talk about that in just a minute. But a wonderful book, dissertation that Michael wrote. It's fascinating reading with many examples. And as a former English teacher, I think you'll find that the way he tells the story is quite interesting. It really is. So as we wrap up this class and spend maybe another 5 minutes talking about moving to class 2, what is the overall theme? Well, the overall theme of today's class is that we're looking at making sure that you have established or will establish or are establishing your development advancement culture. And that becomes important. And that culture is built around 3 areas: people engagement, that whole idea that we need to engage people, meaningful involvement of people in your mission and vision for the future, the value of vision and making sure you have a vision that you can articulate, and the fact that it's built around, as a leader, there is a passion, there is a I can attitude. And I always like that piece. If you have the book, fine. If not, I'll just share it with you. A friend of mine gave me this years ago. It's on page 8 of the book. And it says, possibly one of the best lessons on giving was written with a stub of pencil on 2 sides of a sheet of wrapping paper, which had been folded in place for protection, in a tin baking powder can. The can had been wired to an old pump, which offered the only chance of water on a very long and seldom used trail along the Aragosa Desert. This is what was written. This pump is all right as of June 1932. I put a new sucker washer into it. It ought to last for 5 years. But the washer dries out and the pump has got to be primed. Under this white rock, I buried a bottle of water out of the sun and cork end up. There's enough water in it to prime this pump, but not if you drink some first. Pour about 1/4 and let her soak to wet the leather, then pour the rest medium fast and pump like hell. You'll get water. Wells never run dry. Have faith. And when you get watered up, fill the bottle and put it back like you found it for the next fella. Out of the sun, cork end up. P.S. Don't go drinking up the water first. Prime the pump, and you get all the water you can hold. And next time, remember that life is like this pump. It has to be primed. I've given my last dime away 12 times to prime my pump, and I've fed my last beans to a stranger. It never failed me yet to get me an answer. You got to get your heart fixed to give before you can be given to. Excellent advice from old Desert Pete that kind of sums up that whole piece. So as we move from class 1 to class 2, within the next few days, you'll receive the following. You'll receive a PDF of the PowerPoint presentation from class 1. You will receive the YouTube video link that we've been recording this class, and you'll have the link. We have 20 or 30 students that could not make this first class. We have a lot of students in this class, and we realize with different schedules that some folks are not able to make it. So we'll send everyone the video link. You will get some supplementary materials that will go along with this class. You are going to get the link to class 2 and your homework assignment from class 1, which, of course, as we know, class 1 covered the introduction, lesson 1, lesson 2, and lesson 3 in the book. Now, in this, you're going to get a Word document from me. It is actually an excerpt from the workbook that is in publication right now at NCEA. And behind each of the lessons, you're going to see a section called Questions for Reflection, Discussion, Action. And so in lesson 1, you're to select one question to answer from each of the 3 lessons. And same thing in lesson 2 and in lesson 3. You just need to select one, but you need to do it through all 3 lessons. Then there's another piece after each lesson that's called Practical Exercises and Next Best Steps. Same thing. Select one exercise or next best step from each of the 3 lessons. But you have to do it for each of the lessons, okay? Each of the lessons. So that would be 6 things we're going to ask from you. It'll be left up to you what to choose. Some of the homework assignments, if you selected one, you could do it in 3 minutes. Other, it may take you 30 minutes. Some people asked me recently, can we do more than one? Of course. We're going to keep a folder and a file on each student. And so if you send us back, in the homework to class 1 would have 6 pieces coming back from you. Questions for reflection, discussion, action from lesson 1, one from lesson 2, one from lesson 3, and the same thing with practical exercise, the next best step. One from lesson 1, one from lesson 2, one from lesson 3. You want to do more than that? That's fine. That's fine. That's left up to you. We wanted to design the homework assignment so you can keep up with it. We know your busy schedule. We have a number of principals that are taking this class, and we know how busy you are. Having been in those shoes before, I know how busy that schedule is, especially at this time of year. So that's why we wanted to give you those options. So we'll ask you to please email your homework assignment to me at this particular address. We may give you someone else's email address in the future, but for right now, you can send that to me. You can't do anything about this right now because I haven't sent it to you. Okay? So have your assignment in by Tuesday, September 12th. Okay? By Tuesday, September 12th is when we'd like to get it. And anytime. You can anytime that day or night. Then as we look at further, let's just kind of look at this as we take a look at moving this forward. We've got a few more minutes. So today we covered the introduction, lesson 1 and lesson 2. I'm going to have you read what comes on the screen. I'm not going to read it to you. Then in our class number 2, which is Thursday, September 14th, we're going to cover lesson 4 and lesson 5. On Thursday, September 28th, we're going to cover lesson 6, lesson 7, and lesson 8. And you can see the topics for each of these lessons. 75% will come from the book, 25% will come from stuff that we have actually updated since the book was published. And in class 4, Friday, October 13th, the core team and seeking input and assessing your development efforts. We'll send you an assessment piece. Class 5 on Thursday, October 26th, lesson 12 and lesson 13 and lesson 14. 6 on Monday, November 6th, lesson 15 on enrollment management, and your WOW. We'll tie those together. Those are 2 lessons that we will have together in class 6. Spent a lot of time in class 6 on that. Class 7 on Friday, November 17th, the annual appeal, and win-win with your alum base. And class number 8 on November 30th, social media, creating a culture of giving and your written strategic plan for development, of which I'm going to send you a sample of after this class number 1. Class 9, Friday, December 8th, capital campaigns and endowment growth. And class 10, the last one on Monday, December 18th, shifts in thinking and new sources of revenue for Catholic schools and some parting thoughts. So that's the subject matter. That's where all of these classes are. So once again, our next class is class 2, Thursday, September 14th, 2017. Over the next few days, we're going to be sending this information. So we're not going to send it this afternoon, so please don't look for it, but within the next 1, 2, or 3 days, we will get it to you. And those will be the focus of class number 2. Okay? Last 2 final thoughts. There will be a short survey that pops up on your screen after this class. When I sign off, you'll see a short survey. Okay? And then lastly, this is actually a piece in the book, but if you wanted to once again kind of get ahead of the curve, so to speak, and really take a look at what we're looking at in terms of this infrastructure, if you wanted to, you could take a look at page 98 of the book, and we'll be getting to that later, but this is what we're going for. We're working toward having you establish an organizational framework where you have a development office, and that could be volunteer, full-time, part-time, multi-person office, a core team, and what we talked about today, the people fuel, a strategic plan, and your efforts are all built around constituent records, communications, enrollment management, fund development, which is annual fund, capital campaign, endowed giving, planned giving, deferred giving, alumni involvement, and fundraising events. These are the 6 boxes of a Catholic school advancement development effort. So as you look at this, this is where we're heading. I throw this out at you because I think right now, just wanted you to see this, okay, because we've been talking, see that little rectangular box, it says people fuel, that's what we've been talking about. That's what we've been talking about. And so as we move this forward, notice this box right here in communication is what we're going to be talking about the next class. Communication, that whole piece becoming important in terms of this. So I just thought that I'd point this out to you. As we look at this, there are some people that may have had some questions as we looked at it. I know 1 or 2 people said, I lost audio. On our end, we can't do anything about it. The good news is that you will get the YouTube recording. And so, when we're involved in the actual class itself, there's nothing technically that I can do to make sure I change any of that. But the good news is that you still can keep up with the class because we will send you that YouTube recording. So if anybody has any other questions that you would like to ask, here's one here. What if I have to miss 2 or 3 of the classes? Would I still be able to get the continuing education unit credits from the University of Dayton? And the answer is yes. Once again, the key is you keeping up with the assignments and making sure that in keeping up with the assignments, we're hoping no one has to miss, of the 10 classes, we're hoping no one has to miss more than 2 classes. But once again, as we take a look at this. There's another question here. If I don't have the book, where do I get the assignments? Once again, those assignments will be sent to you, and as I said before, within the next few days, that will be a Microsoft Word document, okay? And you will choose, and it is actually an excerpt from the workbook, okay? So I will make sure that you have that. Once you get it, I don't think you're going to have any problem at all. Let's see. What if I sign in late? Can I still be let in? More than likely, if you're on this webinar, I imagine you're signed in. We'll check. We'll check and see. If not, we can always make that happen. Do we need to buy the workbook when it's available, or will you always send homework? I'm going to be sending homework, through it all. So don't feel like you have to buy it. once again, I don't even know what NCA is going to price it at. Probably same price as a textbook. Think it'd be kind of nice to have it to go along with the text, but that's just my personal opinion, and I'm totally prejudiced and biased. With advancement philosophy being so central to the school, do you envision more advancement professionals becoming part of the school administration team? Yes, 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 yes. In fact, that is what we always recommend, is that the advancement person, she or he who knows what's going on, once again, should be a member of that team, should be of that leadership team. Once again, they've got to make sure they're squared away and know their stuff, though. Let's see. All right. I think that's about it. Once again, the survey will pop up. And if you have any other questions, we'll look at them. We have a person at my office that'll be really her main job. 80% of what she's going to be doing is keeping up with this class because we have so many students. So if you have any questions, just please feel free to ask them in the survey. I think you're squared away. Within the next several days, we'll be sending you everything. I may send you the homework assignment before. In other words, it may go ahead and I may do that here in the next day or two so you have it, so you can get started on it. And then I'll send you the other stuff, the link to the next class and that type of thing. The YouTube, because I gotta upload that YouTube video and everything like that. So anyway, but I may send you the homework assignment, pretty soon. Okay, hope this was good. The questions, I think I've answered the questions that have come in thus far. I don't see any more. Let's see. Will you create a user group on the likes of Facebook, LinkedIn for students in the class as a form of continual networking? Yeah, we're going to do some things at the end. In fact, those of you that may be interested, we are actually going to have an advanced class of this after this class is over at the University of Dayton this coming summer 2018. And also, we'll also be doing some things at NCEA, which is in Cincinnati this year. And I'm going to be speaking on some stuff coming from the workbook because it'll be ready by then. But yeah, we're gonna group people together as much as we can. We're also going to share some things from your homework that we're going to share with others. Some of the things that you send in. So if you send in a homework assignment, you say, please do not share this with anyone. Make sure you indicate that, because many times at the start of these classes, I like to share and start off by saying, hey, we got this great thing in from this person out in Phoenix, Arizona, and I like to share that. So this is once again a wonderful opportunity for you to feel part. Hopefully, we had 125 students in the beta class that we ran for 12 months in 16-17. And if you'd had a chance to read some of those comments and testimonials, but we hope you feel part of this. Please feel free to offer your thoughts and ideas in your homework assignments. Please feel free, if you run across any difficulties, always know if you have technical problems getting into the class when it's scheduled, always know that you will be receiving a PowerPoint and also the YouTube link that you can view it. So hopefully we're off to a great start. Really excited. We have so many people involved, and you'll be hearing from us soon. And thank you for joining us this afternoon, and great luck and wishes as you begin all of your back to school stuff. Please stay tuned for the survey that should pop up, and looking forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks. Thank you now. God bless.